Dyslexic learners process information differently, and in many of our more traditional classrooms, that can create real barriers to their learning. The good news, though, is as educators, we can make small, easy, manageable steps that can help alleviate some of that burden and allow us to better understand what they know. Small things like breaking instruction down into manageable parts, keeping in mind that time can be a factor for many of our learners, and extending it or limiting it as necessary, and other easy adjustments that are in the complete control of every classroom teacher can make a huge difference for a dyslexic learner.
One of the accommodations that we can make for students to ease their cognitive load is to provide them with fillable notes as opposed to having them take notes all by themselves.
Our first question is, what are integers? And you will follow along with me as we define that word, and we'll just fill in the most important parts so that you can feel free to listen, pay attention, and ask questions, and not worry so much about note-taking. Does that make sense?
Fillable notes are very helpful for a couple of reasons. One is that it allows students to focus on the content area that we're working on, the instruction, rather than the note-taking itself. It allows us to lead them through the most important parts of the lesson. And it also scaffolds the note-taking process for students, especially those that have trouble transferring their attention from the board or a textbook back to their notebook.
What do you think, Cassie?
0.
0, right? So 0 is on this line as well. Let's add that right here on our notes. 0.
One of the greatest gifts that we can give our students in terms of accommodation is the gift of time. And using fillable notes allows that as well. It gives students time to process what they're learning, as well as to write down those important points for themselves. It also employs that pencil to paper contact, which is so important for multisensory feedback. Vital to all of us, but especially to students who struggle. The more ways that we can introduce information into our bodies, the better chance we have to remember it and be able to retrieve it, which is why we remember song lyrics and dances from when we were children.
Do you know there's lots of ways in math that we get to measure circles, and those measurements have names, and that's what we're going to talk about today.
Pre-teaching vocabulary is another way that we can provide accommodations to students with dyslexia. To make vocabulary meaningful to students, it helps to connect it to concepts they're already familiar with. That helps to build context and create schema, a framework that exists in our head. It helps us to connect information so that we can remember it.
What do you think the circumference measures, Catalina?
Around something?
Using morphology to introduce new vocabulary can be very helpful. Morphology is simply the parts of words that hold meaning.
Circum means around.
Is she a genius or what? Raise your hand though. What does fur mean? What meaning does that have in the word circumference?
Means to bring, bear, or carry.
It certainly does. So the measure of the circumference literally is the distance measured around a circle. Here's another little part we haven't talked about, the red part. What part of the word is that, Bern?
It's a suffix.
What kind of suffix?
Noun suffix.
Noun suffix. What kind of suffix?
Noun.
Noun suffix. So what part of speech is circumference?
A noun.
It's a noun. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Great job. Yes, Amelia.
So what does ents mean?
Ents tells you it's a noun. It tells you what part of speech the word is.
Oh, that makes sense.
Our goal is to have students embrace the vocabulary, use it in their writing and in their conversation. So what we do in the classroom is we have what we call a bean jar, and the students, of course, love competition. And when the bean jar fills up, we have a party and celebrate all those new words.